Dark Shepherd here. Take 2, because I forgot to turn on the microphone in the last one. Anyway, so this is our models that we usually make in VRED Studio. And this is what I kind of learned this last week as far as how to do a bit more with texture painting. So there's 2 ways to go about what I'm going to show you. And I'm going to show you both ways. So when we actually get these models in here and we try to remove clothing, you'll see that it's censored. So we can't actually have a nude model like this, like we can get in DAZ with our animated model or our anime models in there. But because the rigging is already in these VRMs, it's better to just use them. So what we would do in this case is we would export it like normal, do export as VRM, do, you know, all the things, export, save your location. And then when you get to it, we're gonna bring it into Blender. Well, I'm glad I had that censored up. Where's the other one? Okay. In Blender, this also has a tattoo one. I'll go over that in a second. You can see that, well, originally she didn't look like this. She looked like, she has stuff on her painted on. So what we can do about that is we go to texture painting. In texture painting, what we can do is actually select this and then select the color of the skin. And this is going to make a fully nude model. So I'm going to try to leave as much, keeping this safe for work as I can. I mean, she's a Barbie doll. There's no genitalia at all. But that's how you would do that in Blender. So we can just remove these directly in here, and then we can paint on areola, anything else we need. You want to make, actually kind of make it look more like a pubic region, you could do that. So the other way to do that is in GIMP, and I'll show you that in a second. Or Adobe. I don't use Adobe, so I'll go to GIMP real quick though. Where'd GIMP go? Okay. Let me hide that layer. So I'm going to open the original file for this. It should be this one. So this is what the texture looks like. So how we get to this is actually from Blender. If we go into the shading and we look at the model, what we're looking at is the lit textures. So we follow this and we see that this is the number 10. So we're looking for that particular texture. We find it as we unpack it. You have to unpack it and then try to find its location. But wherever you find it, then that's what you're going to grab and then bring into GIMP. We have GIMP. Can't see because on the center monitor. Anyway, so we have this. So like in Blender, we can actually grab the color and then we can do a paint bucket and then just paint everything out. And notice there are still borders and we can deal with that. And you can just paint over them if you want to. This actually kind of is your guide for if you're putting areola on. It'd be easier to do that part in Blender, in all honesty. It's not so easy to do that here in DAZ. I mean, not DAZ, GIMP. I have a lot of tools I use. But this is for kind of tattooing. So in this particular case, I have a tattoo that I actually had. So I pasted it into the center of the chest and then I export this. And then if you know what you're looking at here, this is the actual texture that I used. I painted on a lot of it and used it for a different model. So the tattoo is actually here. I didn't get the other tattoo up here in the shoulder because it's kind of hard to find that location. But when we paint this out, we export this back and then we bring it back into the textures in Blender. And then we put it in here. So we would actually remove that and then we open up a file. And I don't remember which one it was, but we're gonna bring that back. So we would have our texture in here already. So you can do that and do your own type of shading and stuff like that if you don't want to use tattoos that you find on the internet. But to the tattoos on the internet, what you're gonna do is, this is just a plane. So I'm gonna show, well, I think I actually have an images plane, and yeah, this is the crow. So we bring in the crow. Like I said, I just got it. It's a PNG. First thing you do, edit mode, and then subdivide by a lot. So drag that to 10, right click again, subdivide it again, probably go to that 3 is where I set it. And now we have something that's actually gonna be useful. Rotate that on the X by 90, and we can put that basically, let's put that on her leg. So rotate on the Z by 90, we'll put it on her left leg. Just scale it down. And we're going to Control 3, grab on the X, move over a little bit, grab on the X. Now, when you put it on a curved surface, it's not going to work as great as it does on a flat surface. Move on the X. Okay, so how to do this is we're adding a shrink wrap modifier. So the shrink wrap modifier is over here, and we're just going to shrink wrap it to the tangent normal projection, and it's going to be on the surface, and what we're going to project it to is the body. So that puts it on our leg. Now we have to mess with the offset. I actually was messing with this earlier and found 0.003, or was it 0003? Maybe the 3 zeros. Looks pretty decent. And you increase this number just slightly to get it to work to where you can actually see everything. This is probably going to be a 5. Yeah, okay, so it's basically directly on the skin, and you can't really see that it's not touching. It is actually offset away from the skin. So that's how you can do tattoos. This is the same way. These are on a curved surface, so it doesn't really work real well. So if I move that crow, like up and down on the Z, see it actually does a pretty decent job of staying nice looking. If I do that up here on a tramp stamp, it kind of just screws up because the surface is too curved. You have to do a whole bunch of scaling in different ways, and it's up to you though. The other way to do that is don't mess with this and go back to GIMP, if I can find it, and you would just do what I did here. Take your transparency. If we wanted to actually, I can't copy paste that, but actually I probably can. Let me go back and get it. So we'll just grab this one. It's not gonna let me do it. Let me take a screenshot. Nah, that's not gonna work. You would get the image, whatever you want. Take a screenshot just to show the paste thing. We come back here, hide the layer, and then we're going to Control V, and yeah. This is not Blender. The scale doesn't work like that. Nope, we need the layer, the entire layer. Layer, scale layer, transform. No, should be scale layer. It's in here somewhere. There it is. Reduce that by half. Okay. Now grab the layer. And you would just export this directly as, you know, a PNG. And then you would set that back in your texture in Blender. So in shading, you would set that as your new texture. So what that does is it actually embeds the image inside of the PNG itself, so you don't actually have to mess with scaling, mess with any of the other aspects. It just makes it slightly easier on you, the artist, to a degree. If you want to mess with this as, you know, modifiers, there's nothing wrong with that. You can do that as well, but it's all up to you. Whatever you think is going to work easier for you. And, you know, the texture painting, if I'd have like realized that would have been way easier, because I can't do that in here because it's not safe for work, but you would just, you know, pick a color. And I don't know if you can actually put it across the X. Oh, it looks like you can. So you can pick a color that's going to be, you know, something. I don't know if that counts. If I went like this, it looks like paint. So she got paint on her. But this doesn't actually cover the tattoos either, so. But that's two different ways you could do that. And that was one thing that I've been playing around this last week, trying to figure out something for my K model. The other thing I learned, I don't think we actually go back to Blender for this at all. You don't need it. So what we actually have is, I think I did shut that down. Daz. So this is the original K model that I built in Daz Studio. So she actually is wearing a slingshot. So this is, you know, safe for work. And what we're going to be doing is, it's loading up on the other screen over there. It's the Unreal Engine. So I actually learned how to pull models in from Daz to Unreal. So this is kind of a lengthy process. The first thing you have to do is, let me find the page. not that one, it's this one. You have to get this. So it's David Vodhanol, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, is the DAZ to Unreal. It's kind of like the DAZ to Unreal bridge. Like there's a DAZ to Blender bridge. This one is customized though, because this one actually goes past 5.3. The original DAZ to Unreal bridge only goes up to Unreal Engine 5.3. So anything after that, 5.4, 5.5, and I think we're on 5.6 now, it doesn't work. So you actually have to get these. So you would come in here to releases, go, it's this thing over here, the latest release, and then you would actually download this zip file, which I've already downloaded it. Inside of that zip file, what you're going to find is, that's the wrong one. So we have this. So you go into the DAZ to Unreal, and then it'll actually ask you which engine. Probably gonna have to edit that part out. So which engine? So this is 5.5. We don't have 5.6. DAZ to Unreal, and what we're looking for is the resources. Inside resources, we're gonna see this DZ Unreal Bridge. Now that is a particular DLL file. Well, it's DLL for me because that's Windows. I think it's actually a different thing for Macintosh, but we have over here. Mine is in the C drive. So find your DAZ 3D, installation file. Go to your applications, 64-bit DAZ 3D. Go to DAZ Studio 4 for me, and then you're going to go to plugins. So in here is actually down here toward the bottom is the DAZ to Unreal Bridge DLL. So this actually from 5.5 is going to have to go in here. What this does is backwards compatibility, which goes all the way from 5.5 is all the way back to 4s. So we copy this and put it in here. Then what we're going to do is take the I can't remember what it was. Content. I can't remember which one it was, but we have to install the plugin. I think it's the entire thing here. So we take this entire DAZ to Unreal and you put it inside of your folder, your actual project folder, which I think it's Unreal, my Unreal projects. Yeah, inside of this one I have working on called website. Inside plugins, I have DAZ to Unreal. So inside of here, it's the entire file that was inside of here. And what you're gonna do after you install these two things is you restart Unreal Engine, you restart DAZ, and then inside of Unreal, what you're going to do is come up here, I think it's under Edit, Plugins. So we go to Plugins, and then you're gonna search for DAZ to Unreal. And then make sure it's checked, and then you actually have that there. So what that does is add a whole bunch of really interesting stuff. So I actually don't need that at the moment. Anyway, so now that we all have that installed, there's also some videos from WP Guru that does it. The guy I learned it from was somebody else. I can't remember off the top of my head, but there's a lot of videos on how to install that plugin. Look for the latest one. I think there's one actually for 5.6. But anyway, so when you restart DAZ, what you're gonna find is DAZ to Unreal. Now, when we export, these settings are very important. And the thing is that I've used certain setups and they usually break. So fixed twist bones didn't work for me. Import facing right doesn't really matter, at least for my particular setup that worked. Unique skeleton, I don't think I ever used that. Convert to epic skeleton, because Unreal is owned by Epic, so you can make your own skeleton based off of the Epic models. That didn't work for me. I kept using this and it kept blowing up. So I just used these setups. So export morphs, bake subdivisions, and just clicked advanced settings. And that's what worked. So we click accept, and this is kind of a lengthy process. I mean, from DAZ, no, it's not that lengthy. But when it comes to getting into Unreal, it picks up a lot of time. So she shouldn't take that long. I do know this works because I tested it earlier. I can't get my hand to actually make a thumb go that way because I forgot it doesn't do thumbs. So that's done. Now back to Unreal, and you'll see all these things popping up on the right side. And you should receive no errors as long as the hair is an important thing, because I think its D-Force hair doesn't work in Unreal. I'm still trying to. There's a video or not a video, but a process I'm supposed to go through to actually figure out how to make any hair work in Unreal from DAZ. It's called Groom. you actually have to install an add-on in Blender, and then you bring it from DAZ to Blender, and then Blender to Unreal. And then you have to target it to the model you're using, and then the hair works. But I'm still working on that. That's probably gonna be next week, if I can actually get it to work. I was supposed to be working on it earlier before the videos, before I started recording, but the power went out. So I couldn't do anything. So in here we can see that we don't have any errors. That's a really good thing. And we go to our content drawer, and we have, well, that's not supposed to be in here. That's supposed to not be in here. So we're gonna delete that. Anyway, so because I have to show how to build that. So what we have is we look at our mesh. So this is our skeletal mesh. I really do not like the way Unreal does this. I hate their movement. But what we're gonna do, crap, I needed that. Now I need the content drawer. Inside here, what we're going to do, in order to actually make the Unreal systems work, we have to install the third person, or if you just start from scratch with a new project, you're going to use third person. And then we go into blueprints, and we go into third person blueprint. Now I kind of set this up earlier, I guess it auto-saved. So in viewport, we go to, let me delete that, because that's kind of the process of how this works. So inside of here, we go to visible. And this model is invisible now. Now it's invisible. It's a visible model. This is Quinn, the Quinn model. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the K model on top of the Quinn model. How we do that is we're going to add a skeletal mesh below Quinn. And we're going to name it K, as I can't spell correctly. It's not really that important, but it's going to annoy me. Okay, so the K model, this K mesh is now parented to Quinn. So what we're going to do is the animation class will actually move on K. This is K. So we didn't make that yet. Let me go back to K. Actually, the content drawer. And we go to K. And inside here, we actually add an animation blueprint. So this is going to be targeted to the K skeleton. And we create that, and we name it A. Well, you can name it whatever you want, but I just named mine ABP for animation blueprint. And then we go to the animation blueprint, double click it, and what we're going to do is use what's called the G9 retargeter. So just click here, drag out, and then you're going to put retarget. That's searching for it, retarget pose from mesh. And that's what we use. So you can drag it out here. This is a node. But over here is what we're looking for is the G9 retargeter. This retargeter right here. If you don't see it, I actually did have an issue with that. It's in the video that it was showed. Go here and show, I think it's show engine content, or show plugin content, show engine content. Basically show all the content. And then it will show up. It should show up. As long as you have that DAZ to Unreal bridge in there, it will show up. And then that's your retargeter. And now you're retargeted. But you actually have to compile this. Make sure you click compile. You should hopefully see no errors down here. And you click save. And now we have our animation blueprint. We go back to the third person. And now we have an animation class. The blueprint, we already are using a blueprint. Go down here. And we're using ABPK because that's our animation blueprint. Now, what mesh are we using? We didn't say. So we're using K's mesh. Now you can see she's actually moving along with the idle of Quinn. So what we can do now is go up here and select the mesh, which is Quinn, and search for visible. I can't spell. And now we just turn Quinn invisible. This is also something that didn't work for me in the beginning, is always tick pose and refresh bones. Make sure this is selected. I think I had something else in the beginning, and then K just wouldn't move. So because this is going to constantly refresh the bones, she can actually move. And we compile, and we save, and now we play. Go back to the main, and we have a DAZ model that we just brought in to Unreal. The hair, like I said, I'm still working on that, but she's got the mark of the beast. yeah, it's not super complicated to put these models in Unreal. Especially, this is a G9. I have done this before with the G8. And I think it was Unreal 5.2 I was using. But yeah, this is just the bare bones of a game. But it's just the fact that you can actually move these models so freely. Physics works, all kinds of stuff. So, but yeah, that's kind of all I have for this last week. There's some other stuff that I'm still working on, and there'll be more updates on that next week. But if you have any questions, concerns, or comments, feel free to leave them below. And yeah, I'll see you next week. Thanks. Bye.